vapes in Ireland. So if we could start, Deputy.
Thank you, Cathaoirleach. Thank you, Minister, for taking this topical issue today. This is around an incredibly important issue. It's about HHC, HHC vapes in particular, their prevalence within Ireland, the damage that they are causing, the harm that they're causing to individuals, particularly young people, and the damage that they are causing to relationships and especially families right across Ireland. It is a scourge on our nation, and we really need to nip it in the bud. HHC, I think it's important to outline, is a semi-synthetic almost form of cannabis, which is available in these vapes. But there's a big difference between that and cannabis, because we know the impacts of cannabis. We know the effects it has on people. Some people describe relaxed feeling when they have cannabis. They feel chilled. Some people feel a high. But we know as well that there is a psychosis associated with cannabis, and a certain percentage of people who take cannabis. That's well known. It's well researched. It's well advertised. It's something that we know a lot about, and therefore people are quite aware of the risks if they go down that route. But HHC it's like a silent assassin. It's not yet widely known in terms of the impacts that it has on people's mental health. The psychosis elements and the connection with psychotic episodes is still not widely known. Therefore, and again, I stress it's young people in particular are taking these products through vapes, which are widely available, and it is causing havoc. It's perceived as harmless, but in fact, although perhaps in terms of dosages, it's maybe half as powerful or whatever as cannabis, what's happening is because you have it in a vape form, and because people buy vapes and they tend to take regular doses over the course of the day, they're actually getting a bigger load of this HHC, and therefore it's having a bigger impact. And I'll give you a perfect example of what I mean by that. In a recent Irish study where there's pretty concrete evidence of the link between psychotic episodes and HHC, and taking HHC. In one instance, one of the individuals taking it was a habitual cannabis user and never had a psychotic episode when taking cannabis, but switched to HHC vapes. And after the HHC vapes, that's when the psychosis began. That's when the visions began. That's when he began to experience psychotic episodes. And the theory behind it is because it was so much more available, he was taking it in a much higher dose. And this is happening right throughout Ireland, where people are seeing this as a more harmless and quite a harmless drug, but actually the impacts are far greater. So this stuff creeps up on people. It creeps up on kids in particular. They're being sold to kids under 18. They shouldn't be, but it's happening. And that's possibly a different issue. But they're still getting their hands on these because they're widely available in shops, in vape shops, but shops of all different types. And it's causing kids to be withdrawn. It's causing kids to be withdrawn from their families. It's causing kids to be withdrawn from their friends. They take it because they think they're going to be chilled and maybe take the edge off, but it's actually causing massive problems within their own friendship circles and within their own life. It's causing anxiety. It's causing depression. And this is something that's not just been flagged by me, but it's been flagged by addiction treatment centres, because they are seeing this train coming on the line at speed, and we're not ready to deal with it. It's been flagged by CAMS. It's been flagged by those who are dealing with adolescents and young people with mental health issues. This is coming fast. We need to regulate it. We need to bring it under the Control of Drugs Act. We need to move fast. It's already been flagged as a problem drug by the HSE, but it's too available. We need to stamp it out and make sure it doesn't do any further damage, Minister. Minister
Madigan.
Thank you, Deputy, for your question, which is a very important issue. I take this obviously on behalf of the Minister for Health. I'd like to open with an explanation as to what HHC is and its current legal position. So tetrahydrocannabinol, known as THC, is the principal psychoactive constituent of cannabis, is a Schedule I controlled drug in the misuse of drugs regulations, and is subject to the strictest of controls. Hexahydrocannabinol is a derivative of tetrahydrocannabinol, but is not a scheduled controlled drug. It is a naturally occurring cannabinoid that has rarely been identified as a trace component in cannabis sativa, but can also be produced synthetically by hydrogenation of cannabis extracts. HHC was first identified in Europe in May 2022, which is not that long ago, and was put under intensive monitoring at the end of 2022 by the European Monitoring Centre for Drugs and Drug Addiction. It is the first semi-synthetic cannabinoid reported in the EU and has been monitored as a new psychoactive substance by the EU early warning system since October 2022. Early warning in Ireland is coordinated by the European Monitoring Centre for Drugs Addiction, or the EMCDDA, national focal point, and the Early Warning Emerging Trends Working Group chaired by the Department of Health. EWET continues to monitor the emergence and use of this substance in Ireland, which I hope might reassure you somewhat, Deputy. HHC has been reported as a drug of concern by HSE and, as you mentioned, adolescent service providers. HHC can be contained in vaping products, as you mentioned, and there is growing concern on the potential impact of using this substance on young people's mental health, including, as you also mentioned, the possible link with psychosis. Young people report adverse effects such as loss of consciousness after use, and you yourself mentioned there the possible link between that and psychotic episodes. The HSE will add content about HHC to its website, drugs.ie. Evidence in relation to harms associated with HHC will be carefully monitored and appropriate responses will be considered. The HSE will continue to liaise with the EMCDDA and the Early Warning and Emerging Trends Group for further direction on this substance. And this is an area currently being monitored by the HSE and the EU Drug Agency, as there is limited information on the health impact of this substance to date. With regard to synthetic cannabinoids, the HSE has comprehensive harm reduction information about the substances available on drugs.ie, which is available on their website. And the HSE also issued an alert regarding cannabis edibles contaminated with synthetic cannabinoids earlier this year.
Thank you, Minister, and I appreciate the response. The unfortunate thing is that the response is almost a carbon copy of responses that I've already received from Mr. Naughton's office in relation when I flagged this previously. And look, there are some encouraging elements in there in that there's clearly an awareness of it. There's awareness of the impacts that it has on young people. There's awareness of the psychosis that is linked to this substance. So there is an awareness, but what I'm concerned about is the same language now has been used for the last number of months in that it's been monitored. It's been monitored. But what I'm hearing from parents is that this is having an impact on their children now. This is changing their children's personality. Vibrant, intelligent, enthusiastic young people are becoming withdrawn. They're becoming disinterested. They're becoming depressed. They're becoming anxious. This is happening now. So I think the time for monitoring, we have to go past that phase. The time now is for action. And more concerningly, as I said in my opening statement, there's big red flags being waved by the likes of CAMHS, Child and Adolescent Mental Health, the likes of the drug addiction centres, that they are seeing these kids coming in bigger and bigger numbers every week. So, and I appreciate, not to shoot the messenger, you're here reading an answer on behalf of the Minister for Health, and I appreciate that it's been monitored, but now is the time for action. This needs to be brought under the Control of Drugs Act. We need to stamp this out. Vapes are a scourge as it is, environmentally, in terms of the accessibility of them. These are so accessible. They're in every shop and they're being just sold to kids like sweets. It needs to stop, and especially these HHC products, which are clearly causing havoc to kids' mental health. And I would really love for you to bring that message back to the Minister that we need to take this more seriously.
Minister, to conclude.
Thank you, Deputy, for outlining. I can see that you're concerned about this, the hexahydrocannabinol is not currently a controlled drug under the misuse of drugs regulations. As you said, it is being monitored closely at international level by the European Union Drugs Agency, which I understand is the initial step in placing a substance under drug control measures. It is important to point out, though, that the Criminal Justice Psychoactive Substances Act 2020 is an act to prevent the misuse of dangerous or otherwise harmful psychoactive substances and to provide offences relating to the sale, the importation, exportation or advertisement of these substances. So there are protections in place, and anybody who sells a HHC vape, which one would assume is for human consumption, is guilty of an offence under the 2010 Act. But I hear what you're saying, acknowledging the fact that there is awareness. You just want to see more further progress on this, and I would imagine once that it's been closely monitored that there will be progression after that. I hear what you're saying about the drug addiction centres and indeed CAMS, and some of the symptoms are the outcomes that people, particularly young people, have when they inhale this vape. And I will bring your concerns to the attention of the Minister. Thank you.
Guramaigov, we're now on to topical issue 4 in the name of Deputy Joe McHugh to the Minister for Housing, Local Government and Heritage to discuss the conditions of the MICA redress scheme, and this has been taken by Minister Madigan, like all the topical issues tonight. So Deputy McHugh, 4 minutes.